Could it even be possible? Well, what did Einstein think?
Due to the extraordinary work of two men and the personal tragedy that drove them, time travel became a reality.
Time travel? I always thought that sounded like a bunch of bull.
I can only imagine what it must have been like to have been there when he actually did it.
It changed everything.
Oh boy, it's a time travel podcast. My name is Nate, and we caught up with a noted historian and podcast researcher. It's Brian Martin.
How are you, everyone? How are you, Nate?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
I was trying to be professional, like the people in our program this evening.
Oh, like you're an actual researcher. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here and answer your questions.
Yeah, there you go.
Like General Douglas Sanborn. I'm trying to live up to his standard.
How you doing tonight, Brian? Are you ready to record this?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing really good. You know, as you know, I've been watching a lot of Twin Peaks.
Right.
Last weekend, I watched 7 consecutive episodes of Twin Peaks.
Oh my God. By yourself? What are you doing?
No. Well, first of all, 7 episodes consecutively, too many. Of Twin Peaks.
Of anything.
I think of anything, but definitely of Twin Peaks. Like, I went to bed and had dreams about a little dwarf talking backwards and dancing, you know? But you ask, are you watching it by yourself? Well, no, Nate, and I think I've been open on this show before about the conditions under which I am able to watch TV.
Oh, sure, okay.
Right?
Family.
If I can watch anything, it's basically relegated to things I can watch with Miles.
Okay, and he's interested in Twin Peaks?
Let me tell you something, Nate. He could not be more interested in Twin Peaks.
What?
While I was watching the pilot episode a couple weeks back, he did that thing that he's done when we're recording sometimes, where he just wakes up in the middle of the night and just stumbles into this room.
Sure, yeah.
And plops down next
I've seen it firsthand, folks.
Yeah, well, he did that during the Twin Peaks pilot. And he just plopped down, and he didn't immediately fall back asleep. His eyes are kind of open, and he's squinting at the TV, and he's, like, watching, and I'm like, well, it was on ABC. What's the worst thing that's going to be in this show, you know?
One-Eyed Jacks? Do they go to One-Eyed Jacks?
Not in that episode, but they got there. But once he understood that the central premise was about a murder mystery, he was completely invested. And over the past couple of weeks, he's asked me, like, can we go watch some Twin Peaks now?
Oh, God.
He asked me at one point, he said,
crazy.
Do you think I'm the biggest fan of Twin Peaks at my school? And I said, Miles, I'm going to do you one even better. I can almost guarantee you're the only person at your school who has seen Twin Peaks.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm talking about the administration and the staff, too.
Yeah, right. Man,
that's
crazy.
Maybe not, but he just went all in. And Pokemon cycled back around a few weeks back, and he's really in on that now, but it's like Twin Peaks is, like, he loves it.
Waylon got away a little bit about only murders in the building.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's a murder mystery, and he was really into that for a while. Oh, and he's got to read books for school, and he's like, maybe I could get a murder mystery. And I was like, yeah, let me find a 5th grade reading level murder mystery.
Yeah.
It's gotta be out there, right? Kids like murder.
A parakeet was murdered. Like, it can't be a dog, because a dog getting murdered is too sad. But if it was like a bird, who gives a shit, right?
I did
a fish. The fish was murdered.
Yeah, no, I did a pitch for like a noir story. It was like Brick, but for like elementary school kids.
Oh.
And I think the murder was like a missing cat.
Okay.
And it was called 9 Lies.
Ooh.
Instead of 9 Lives.
Yeah, we got it.
Get the thing? See what we did there? It was actually a really good pitch. My friend Tracy did the artwork. It never didn't make it.
Oh,
Not picked up anywhere, but it was fun to do anyway. Yeah, how do we get on murder mysteries? Well, we didn't watch one.
I don't know. There's a murder mystery element to it, among many things.
Oh, lots of different elements in this episode tonight.
But while we're on the subject of noir, and dipping back into the last couple episodes where you talked about the Muppets, I would like to say that there is
Put those together, okay.
there is a comic book being released right now by a cartoonist named Roger Langridge, who did a Muppet series about 12 or 13 years ago. Probably even longer ago than that at this point, now that I'm thinking about it, because it is 2026 now. So it might have been about 15 years ago.
Was it a Muppet Show comic book?
It was a Muppet Show comic book.
Yeah, I read that. I read some of those.
Roger Langridge did the art.
Okay.
He's back doing another Muppet series, and it's called The Muppets Noir.
Weird.
And Kermit is like a detective in it.
Huh.
Yeah. After getting hit on the head with something in the Muppet Theater, I would say,
Sure.
Like, he is unconscious in the Muppet Theater, probably has some sort of severe head trauma, but the story takes place while he's in his coma, I guess.
So it's all in his head, maybe.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember not liking the art in that very much.
Really?
When I draw Muppets, I want them to look like the Muppet. I want it to look like a puppet.
Oh, okay, and this was much more like a cartoonist's kind of interpretation.
Yeah,
of the
exactly.
Muppets.
A cartoonist representation of the character. And like so many people do it that way. When I draw them, you can check it out on my TeePublic site, /ActionNate. I draw Muppets all the time, but I make them look like they're puppets. It just feels more natural.
You know what would be great is if you had one that was just Kermit the Frog laying on his side, but you could see his whole body, including the hole in his anus where it's like the hand would go.
So tonight we're watching...
At least my Muppets look like puppets, damn it!
Okay, tonight we're watching a mockumentary. What did we watch tonight, Brian?
A mockumentary is a term, I guess. It's not going to make you laugh.
Yeah.
Especially Nate. Even if it was supposed to make you laugh.
Yeah, I
Nate
don't
wouldn't
laugh.
at it.
I don't laugh.
This movie is The History of Time Travel.
Which is available on Amazon, is where I watched it.
It is on Amazon Prime, yeah. So, and I got to tell you guys, from the jump, spoilers are going to be in full effect for this because there is no way to talk about it without ruining the entire premise.
Right.
First of all, if you've never heard of this, like me before like 3 weeks ago, and certainly if you've never seen it, go on Amazon Prime, watch this thing. It's like an hour and 10 minutes long.
Yeah.
And then come back and listen to the show. Seriously, I cannot stress this. Unless you are the person out there who is... Well, are we doing spoiled tomatoes for this? There's probably not enough reviews.
It doesn't have a tomato score.
So there's no excuse. Every one of you should just go and watch this movie before you listen to us talk about it.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'll put a buzzer in there so that people know, hey, spoilers ahead.
That buzzer's going to go off a lot.
Oh, you get one spoiler. This was it. You get one spoiler warning.
Okay.
All
yeah,
right.
that's safe. I think this is a good movie to chase Lola with.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Without retreading ground, because they certainly don't, but
No.
they're both about the Nazis.
A little bit.
Yeah, this one's more about the Soviets, but, you know.
Yeah.
The Nazis have a presence in this, and they're both they're presented very authentically.
Yeah, I mean, it's attempting to present real life. It exists in our world and doesn't deviate from that too much.
Yeah.
It's another one of these movies that's very grounded. We're not talking about Time Cop here or even frequently asked questions about time travel. You know, it's not like a movie that's creating a universe that you need to introduce yourself to.
No, this is
This
sort
is
of
more
thing...
about here's the world that you live in presented to you.
There are certain family members I have and have had who, were they to stumble across this program on TV in the middle of the night, would think that this was all real and it had happened.
Oh my God. Okay.
In the way that it's presented, because this movie is presented like any documentary you would see on the History Channel.
Are these the people that watch Ancient Aliens over and over again?
I have a note about Ancient Aliens in here, and I'll get to that.
Okay. Well, while you're getting to that, you want to tell us what this movie's about?
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me? Precisely.
So, History of Time Travel, 2014, written and directed by Ricky Kennedy, who has done not very much.
That doesn't surprise me, honestly.
This was a student project.
That doesn't surprise me either.
Yeah, I mean, it has student project energy, and I do feel like he really threw a lot of himself into this.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, and also I should note that it doesn't star anyone. In fact, I don't even think you see Hitler in it. Do you see Hitler?
I think you
Surely
see
you
Hitler.
see Hitler.
You see
Okay,
Hitler.
You see Hitler. You see Albert Einstein. A couple of those guys. You know the guys.
The guys.
We see the guys. In the darkest days of World War II, Nazi scientists began experimenting with time and space, a field of study that concerned Albert Einstein even more than the development of nuclear weapons. In an effort to keep pace with Hitler and hopefully beat him to the punch, the United States government founded the Indiana Project, tasked with rapidly developing the world's first time machine. Many historians and scientists have researched and reflected on this ambitious endeavor, and for those of us who don't like to read,
Hey! Hey!
History Television has you covered. Their special, The History of Time Travel, assembles experts in physics, history, psychology, and even speculative fiction to break down the theories of time travel and recount the history of the Page family, whose members, beginning with Edward Page in the 1940s, conducted ongoing studies that ultimately produced a functioning time machine. Pouring decades of work and isolation into these pursuits, it is Edward's son Richard who finally realizes his father's dream in the year 1985. Or is it Richard and his brother Aidan who finally complete the project in 1990? Or maybe Edward actually did produce a functional prototype in 1944? Wait, no, that was the Soviets who did that. Or maybe no one ever invented time travel in the first place? Anyway, I'm a little fuzzy on the details, but I do remember that the CIA and the KGB spent the better part of the 20th century maintaining a close watch over the Page family. After Edward and his wife are found dead in their home in 1975, Richard and Aidan go about their lives, only returning to that home 20 years later on the eve of the house's demolition.
It is a murder mystery.
Yeah, and that's when they discover their father's secret journal, which may just contain the information the brothers need to correct history and save their family. Yes, it's all here in science fiction television's documentary, The Theory of Time Travel.
Right. Yeah. How many times did you have to rewind to write all that down?
I had to pause a lot.
Yeah.
I took so many fucking notes.
That's good because I didn't keep character names or like
Oh, I have a whole list.
contributor names and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Did you keep all of that written down?
Well, yes, I made a list in and of itself that I could just quick reference to, but I was keeping track of all of those things as I went through.
That's
And
good.
it became really, really important at about the 30-minute mark.
Acquiring a series of polio and booster shots, Richard will travel back to the 1920s and inoculate his newborn mother.
To be keeping track of who these people are.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to dive into it
No, but
directly, but I want to kind of talk generally about this first.
yeah, and I think the first thing that we kind of need to point out is we talked about it being a mockumentary. We mentioned Ancient Aliens. It's definitely one of those like History Channel style documentaries about a particular subject, right? So
Yes.
when we talk about a mockumentary, we're not talking about like The Office or Best in Show or something.
Where
where-
these dials go to 11.
Right, yeah, Spinal Tap, where it's like somebody making a documentary. It's not that. This is the finished documentary made about this particular subject.
There's archival footage throughout of the Page family of historic events.
Reenactments.
There are reenactments involved, over voiceover from the professionals and the experts in their respective fields who are contributing. You get those confessional shots where it's just like them in the corner of the screen and they're in their office or something. and they
Everybody's
talk.
seen this kind of thing.
Yeah,
You've
it's
seen
exactly that sort of thing. And it really does benefit from having no one in it.
it. Yeah.
There's no one in there you're going to recognize from anything else, which really is great.
Yeah, if it had been an actor, it probably would have stuck out like a sore thumb.
Sure.
You know,
Sure.
like, oh, and there's Brad Pitt. Or, you know what I mean?
That's exactly who I was thinking of.
Do you think people focus maybe too much on your looks and don't even, realize that you're just a shitty actor?
Next question.
Well,
Yeah. But yeah, that's exactly it.
yeah.
It functions every single moment of it, from the moment it starts, is like one of those shows. There's no traditional opening credits sequence, you know? It's just,
Right.
This is a show you would just run across on History Channel.
On the History Channel, or in this case, History Television.
The little icon is over in the corner of the screen
Right.
a lot of the time.
Yep. Just to tell you what channel you're on.
Yeah.
Yeah, these types of shows were pretty prevalent in the 90s, right? Was it like the 90s and the early aughts that these things were really popular?
Yeah, I mean, popular, like, culturally.
Well, because the internet wasn't huge yet, so all of the
Yeah.
things, when you wanted to get into your nerdy, weird alien abductions or strange, like the Time Life books we were talking about,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
like these types of documentaries were pretty prevalent back then.
Yeah, it's like once cable opened up the floodgates and we had all of these, like, hyper specialized channels.
Right.
In the 90s and the 2000s.
The Syfy channel.
Yeah, that's where it all kind of started, right? Not to keep bringing up the History Channel, but you can still turn on the History Channel and see documentaries that look just like this.
That's true.
Every day, you know?
I don't mean to imply that they're not around anymore, but they were big because there was nowhere
cultural
else to
touch
go
point.
for this kind of stuff, you know?
Yeah. It's definitely this cultural touch point of the first quarter of the 21st century, right?
Right. I notice you're not drinking anything. What do you got?
No,
water in that mug?
No, it's tea. I've got like a tickle in my throat here, so it's...
All right. Well, I'm drinking my...
You know what, Nate? Actually, and you folks listening can't see this, but at intervals tonight, the glass beside me is going to change. And by the... and it's tea right now, but at some point it's just going to be a tall glass of V8 juice. And then by the end, it's going to be that same tall glass, but filled to the brim with bourbon.
And that'll make a lot more sense to you guys after you've watched this.
After you've watched the
Yeah.
program. All right, so first, I just want to... Did you like this?
Yeah, I
Good.
did. I don't know that it blew me out of the water per se. It felt to me like... I won't say like you felt about frequently asked questions, but more like, oh, that's a clever idea. Look at them. Boy, they put that together really nicely.
Yeah, I don't think I would call this a trifle.
No, I mean, it was clear that they put a lot of effort into it.
And it's certainly more ambitious than frequently asked questions about time travel, I think.
Ambitious?
I would say this is far more ambitious.
In what regard, though?
Nate, there's certain elements, and you don't even have to dig back far in the recording to know where my time travel catnip is.
Right.
This thing scratches like every fucking itch. And it lays it out early on. 'Cause
Right.
They're talking about the different types of time travel. They're talking about the paradoxical loop item that never has an origin point. The movie gets to that,
Yep.
Let's say I go back in time and I lose the watch. Later on, my grandfather finds the watch and many years later gives it to me. Where did the watch originally come from? Had I not gone back in time and lost the watch, my grandfather never would have found it in order to give it to me. My grandfather couldn't have given it to me if I hadn't lost it. So the pocket watch has now become stuck in an infinite loop.
I fucking loved this thing. I thought this was fucking great.
Wow, that much, huh?
The conceit of making it the documentary was terrific. But the way it progresses, and as things happen, your lived timeline starts to shift
Right.
as you are watching the movie in real time.
Right.
I thought that was great because I loved watching the background and just seeing, okay, well, what's different in this guy's office
Now
from
that-
what it looked like 3 interviews ago.
Yeah, now that the timeline has changed.
There's all these different
Yeah, I
people
wrote
being
them
interviewed.
down. Over the course of this documentary, they're talking about the stages of the creation of time travel. And as they're laying out this story of this time machine and the family that had it, they describe actions that those characters took that ends up changing their own timeline. So that when you
Yes.
come back to them, they've lived a different life. And everything that they've told you thus far didn't really happen anymore. It's a little bit more like this, and that now they've got a new narrative, but somehow it's still strung together in a linear way
Yes.
that is not confusing.
Yeah. That's what's remarkable.
Yeah.
The way it kind of starts is like I summarized at the beginning. This guy, Edward Page, who is commissioned to create a time machine, and he kind of loses himself to the project. Mm-hmm. His wife ends up dying young. He's got a son, Richard. They have a very challenging relationship. They don't have much of a father-son relationship at all. But Richard finds his father's journal and determines he's going to carry on the work. And he basically alienates everyone in his life to do so, and then finally makes it happen. Right. And his first objective is to go back in time and
save his mother from polio.
And then after that happens, the talking heads are all like, and he was successful. And it was, after that, he spent 3 days in a coma. And after he woke up, he hooked up with his brother Aiden, and about 3 years later, they discovered time travel. So the timeline keeps adjusting in real time. Aiden, this kid comes in. You've never heard of him before, but he exists now because Mom was saved.
We know what Richard created, and we know that it worked. What we don't know, even to this day, is how he did it. He never reveals the secrets in his journal.
It works. The time machine works.
Richard and Aiden have finally fulfilled their father's work. It wasn't just a triumph for mankind, but a personal triumph as well.
Right. But it's just presented in stride, like...
Because those people don't know any better.
Right, because the timeline was corrected. The original version doesn't exist anymore, right?
Yeah. And that's the structure of this thing, and it's pretty creative, and it's interesting, and it's fun to watch. When they open this documentary, though, and they're just talking about, not since H.G. Wells' The Time Machine has anyone thought about time travel.
Where's the love for the clock that went backward?
Right?
Your clock does not go. Does it ever go?
I thought about that.
Yeah, I was like, it wasn't. H.G. Wells didn't do it, man. Come on.
But
clock that went backward.
So it kind of introduces time travel to you this way, in that, hey, everybody thinks about time travel. Mankind loves thinking about time travel. Look at all these interesting stories about time travel. And then they just explain the 3 types of time travel there can be. And it's so succinct.
For many years, I subscribed to the multiverse theory. For an example, if I go back in time and stop the Lincoln assassination, I would immediately create a new timeline which branches off from the old one.
Another possibility was the fixed timeline theory. Now, in the fixed timeline theory, if you were to go back in time and accidentally kill someone, you haven't altered the course of history, you were already a part of it. You were always meant to go back in time and accidentally kill that person. Your future was already part of the past and you couldn't change it.
Multiverse theory, fixed timeline theory, and the infinite loop.
Yeah, they're basically rendering our podcast moot, is the way I wanted to put it. Because if you ever got confused, and I'll admit, early on in the podcast, when we talk about things like the clock that went backwards, or time crimes, where it's the timeline that is entirely dependent on the fact that time travel happens.
Right.
And I used to get a little tripped up on that because it kind of creates this knot in the middle of a time flow, that we talked about. And they kind of just explained it in a second and a half, and you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Well, these guys are professionals.
Right. Right. But it made me think of Avengers Endgame when the Hulk is trying to explain to Ant-Man his past can't affect his future.
Think about it. If you travel to the past, that past becomes your future. And your former present becomes the past, which can't now be changed by your new future.
Exactly. So Back to the Future is a bunch of bullshit?
Because his future is his past. Remember? They kind of go through this whole thing, and that's basically all he's saying.
Yeah.
Your lifeline is expecting you to go here, so you can't change what it's going to be.
Yeah. It really takes the perspective of the time traveler.
Yeah.
You kind of have to experience the journey through that time traveler to be able to make sense of a narrative like that and to make it work.
Sure.
Right.
Plus, Back to the Future is just a bunch of bullshit.
Well, yeah. According to
Ant-Man.
The cool thing about this as a viewer is this kind of makes you feel like an active participant in the story, in the sense that you're observing the changes to this world in a way that, you know, it feels more real, obviously, is the style in which it's presented.
Mm-hmm.
But because you're seeing changes like minute to minute with these talking heads that are just, we know what to expect from something like that. You know, the environment doesn't change. It's not like, you remember Homer's interview on Rock Bottom?
Somebody had to take the babysitter home. Then I noticed she was sitting on her sweet can. I grabbed her sweet can. Oh, just thinking about her can. I just wish I had her sweet can.
Right.
The clock keeps moving in the background.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like you are watching this unfold in a way that's really, really unique for a time travel movie. Like, the experience of the viewer is really interesting here.
Yeah, I think what you're driving at, and I'll put it another way, is you're watching a documentary that has experts speaking to you about a topic that over the course of that show, you know more than they do.
Yes. You don't get a lot of dramatic irony in documentaries, typically. The whole reason we're watching these is because these people know more than we do. But that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, exactly. They're supposed to be telling us what happened. They're telling us a historical story. They're telling us how a person felt. They're telling us how a thing came to be. And over the course of it, by about halfway through, you know that they no longer know things that they used to. And
yes,
we do know those things. So our knowledge of the topic and the events are much fuller than these so-called experts that are speaking to you. So
yes,
you start to examine them a little bit more. You start to wonder, like, well, what do they really know? You know, or like, what have they forgotten? So when they're talking to you now, you're thinking, okay, well, what don't they remember? Like, what is their life like now because of these things that I know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Because, I mean, theoretically, all of these people remain as informed as they were before from a theoretical field of study kind of perspective. But as far as actual events that unfolded in history, those are the things that are getting lost.
Yeah.
The events that happened to the Page family. And over time, and the more they go back and start to try to adjust things and try to make this perfect, harmonious family life, which is really what they're setting out to do.
Yeah.
They're identifying, okay, well, where did things go wrong? Well, mom had a disease. We have to go back in time and heal her disease when she was a kid. What happened next? Oh, mom got in a car accident. So now we got to go stop that. Oh, what happened next? Well, dad was really distant. And now we've got to kind of bring him back into the fold. And they're just trying to micromanage building a family unit.
Right.
While at the same time enabling the Soviets to get time travel.
Yeah. Just like a lot of time travel movies, it's about the follies that come with trying to fix things that shouldn't be messed with, right?
Right, and the effects of those things. Like the first one, okay, we saved mom, and now he has a brother. Aiden is now in the picture. Well, that doesn't seem so bad, right?
Right.
But then the car accident they save her from has a very observable and pointed impact on what you're watching immediately.
Right.
Right? And that was the point, honestly, where I was like, I'm in, I am sold, I love what you're doing.
Okay. The only thing I would add to this in trying to describe the structure, because if for some reason you didn't heed our warning and have not watched it and are listening to us anyway, the only other way I would describe this is like the events that they discuss throughout the course of this documentary show could almost be a movie in and of itself, right?
Right.
It's like they're describing a movie to you. And part of me felt like maybe this writer, director had this idea for this story about the Indiana Project and really wanted to do that movie, but he didn't have the means to do that movie. And
so he did this instead? See, I don't think that's true.
I think it's a possibility.
Because here's the thing. We had a very similar conversation about this with Lola, in that it is a pretty typical time travel movie nested in a format that you haven't seen before.
Sure.
Right? That's the same thing here. I think if this were just a movie about the Page family trying to resolve their family conflicts and build this perfect family, I don't think it works.
I wouldn't argue that it does. What I'm positing to you here is that, especially now, given that it's a student film, it would not surprise me if the germ of the idea is this Indiana project. What if the Manhattan Project, but time travel? This is where we start. What if they had a project that was time travel, and what does that story look like? Here's character A that's involved in that. What does his life look like? And you start building out this story, but it's a student film. You don't have the means to create that thing. You take it from a different perspective in order to tell that story, and it elevates that material to a way that maybe you didn't expect until you really started getting into it. And now that you're doing this documentary style, you're like, oh, this is a whole different animal. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying...
I see what you're saying. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
My feeling, and I guess I could be wrong, but I don't think he came at it as, you know what? I'm going to do Ancient Aliens, but time travel.
It's an Ancient Aliens event.
This is insane.
As ancient astronaut theorist Giorgio Tsoukalos joins Egyptologist Rami Rahmani for the journey of a lifetime.
And I completely disagree with you.
Okay.
I think the germ of the idea was, wouldn't it be cool if I was watching something like this about time travel? What would that look like? What would it be about? Watching any History Channel, Ancient Aliens, I don't think is quite a fair thing, because, I mean, it's like pseudoscience-y, and, like, you get the guy with the crazy hair, and it's like he already seems dubious. But, like, I did think, the one thing I wrote was, like, he should have been in this, and every time history adjusts, his hair should have changed in some kind of insane way.
Right.
But I really do think that the idea for this movie comes not from, I want to make a time travel story, but more like, I'm watching this History Channel documentary, and what if I made a documentary about a specific government project about time travel and made all of these adjustments throughout as time changed, and I had my talking heads reflected that way. I really think that was the idea.
Okay.
And the reason I think that is because the government project, the family connection, the changing the past, all of that is really rote. Like, there's nothing really remarkable about that story.
Yeah.
The remarkable thing is the format in which we're seeing it. So I get what you're saying, that, like, maybe the limitations he faced as a student filmmaker are what made the movie work the way it does. But I don't think the limitations came second. I really think the concept of making a documentary came before all the other stuff.
I don't know. I still kind of lean towards what I perceive to be the case because of the fact that the idea is so rote. Because people don't come up with good ideas.
Oh, come on.
People don't come up with good ideas. People come up with lots and lots of bad ideas until one strikes. And I think
I knew I made a mistake starting this season with frequently asked questions about time travel.
I'm just saying, like, everybody does the same thing until something comes along that's different.
Well, I think when you have less to lose and you're younger and you don't have the burdens of things like families and bills, I think you're just... Shane Carruth made Primer, right?
Sure.
This guy makes history of time travel. You get these, like, young avant-garde guys who are just like, I'm going to see what I can fucking get away with. I'm going to see how far I can stretch this concept. You know? I don't think it started with the rote idea. I think the idea is rote because the concept and the format is strong enough to carry a rote idea.
It just feels so much harder to build that way, though. From my perspective, and maybe this is why I'm leaning into it so hard, is it feels so much harder to say, I've got this idea for this documentary, and then build all of the events that you're going to talk about in that documentary while knowing that that's the goal.
I don't think it was written in any sort of linear fashion. I think it would be cool to see a documentary about a government project that successfully created a time machine. And from there, I say, okay, well, what's the history of that? right? And then I start building that history because I watch History Channel documentaries. If we're talking about World War II, I understand that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end in this sort of global sequence of events from the American perspective anyway.
Sure.
You know, it starts on December 7th and it ends in 45, and that's it. That's World War II, right? That's the Western privilege that we have of looking at that event. But my point is, there is a historical narrative, and you can find these touchstone points. What are the most important developments that you would need to touch on in a hour-long program like this? Because I feel like if you start with that time travel story of the family, you end up with way more information than you need, and it ends up being way more personal than it ever is intended to be. You know, like you get insights, personal insights to those characters that you wouldn't be able to get through something like a historian who's just talking about it after the fact. Right. I just really think that concept came first. I absolutely think the first thing he thought was documentary.
That's fine. I mean, we could do a little research on it.
And we're not gonna.
I mean, maybe we can after the fact and have some kind of addendum, but I don't mean to make it an argument. I'm just trying to say, like, one is building from the outside and the other is building from the inside out. And as soon as he got on the track of let me make this a documentary, it became something else.
Edward Page, a young researcher who had been working in the Indiana Project for several years, stuns his colleagues when he not only creates a series of equations that would produce time travel, he builds a functioning prototype as well.
I'm just saying, like, when your head hits the pillow and you're thinking about it, and you're like, man, what if we were working on a time travel program the same time we were trying to do Space Race, and what would that look like? And I don't think one is somehow better than the other. I don't think it's any more inventive to say, I'm going to make a documentary than it is to say, I'm going to turn this into a documentary.
Right.
Neither one is worse, and you still get the same product.
Yeah, I just think that the more natural inclination is to think, how can I make this different? Right? If I had the idea, it's like, time travel. Time travel's been done to death. What am I going to do that's going to be different?
Mm-hmm.
And that's like the first or second thought I have, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm sitting here and I'm like watching a documentary and I'm like, how about that?
You know? They're indistinguishable by the time the product comes out, right? You get the same result regardless of whether you started here or started there.
This movie is itself a paradoxical infinite loop because narratively it doesn't really matter what came first. It was all here the whole time anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. Once it is a documentary and you've decided to go that angle, it's a fun and different way, a different look at it. I think if there's any variation in our perspectives, you and I'm not blown away by this. You're blown away. I really loved it.
Yeah, I feel fairly blown away by it. Like, I just like the way it was presented. I love the way it was presented. I love the way all of the little elements come together. I love how it rewards you for paying attention.
Yeah, that's fun.
Throughout, you get a lot of rewards in it. But yes, I really thought if you're going to make something like this, it's hard for me to perceive of you doing a better job with it. I'm not you, Nate, but I'm saying like it's hard for me to perceive of anybody else doing a better job.
Well, that's because you've never seen me do the work.
That's true. Yeah, I guess so.
No.
I could see you maybe leaning a little bit harder into some of the changes happening around your interviewees.
No, because if you get too heavy into it, it becomes too obvious.
I don't think that's necessary because, behind General Sanborn.
Once the war was over, the Pentagon saw no reason to keep funding the Indiana Project. Time travel? I always thought that sounded like a bunch of bull.
Yeah.
The only difference in his office throughout is that the photo in the background changes from Obama to Clinton and back to Obama.
Right.
As history is altered throughout, right? And then you get some that are a little bit more subtle. Like one of the characters, Jack Fincher, he's a Yale expert in astrophysics and quantum mechanics, and he's got kind of a chalkboard behind him. The one with the globe.
Okay, yeah.
To discuss the hard science of time travel and the possibility of paradoxes, we meet with Dr. Jack Fincher of Yale University. Dr. Fincher is an astrophysicist specializing in quantum mechanics and the author of 2 New York Times best-selling books on the subject.
So the color of the globe alters once communism starts to spread throughout the world.
Yeah, that's fucking awesome.
The entire South American continent is red behind him.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Cool. That's just a cool little detail.
Yeah. Every one of these characters has some kind of minor change. I would say the most minor one, because I was watching that globe. I was watching to see how it changed in each thing. The sociologist, the philosopher and sociologist, yes, the characters that are talking now change. Apparently they went to this woman for their documentary instead of this man in one of the timelines, right? Like the actor changes, the person they're speaking to changes, because in this timeline they decided to go talk to her instead of go talk to him. Fine. That's cool. That's fun. But was more interesting to me, it's like, really, this is just the placement of a bench in a park. Because if you look at their background, like sometimes they're closer to the playground. Sometimes the playground's at this angle. Sometimes they're right in front of a tree. But it's all in the same park.
Their clothing changes. All right,
sure.
So Nate,
clothing chose to wear something different on film day. Yeah,
I want to touch on that a little bit because yes, there is a character, a philosopher named Adam Lindquist that the movie spends some time with.
The final aspect of time travel we will explore is the moral implication of altering time. We meet with philosopher Dr. Adam Lindquist, international lecturer and a highly regarded voice in the world of ethics.
And then at a point, that setting, suddenly there's a different person being interviewed there. Dr. Vanessa Byers, a sociologist.
That's a good-looking woman.
She's a really good-looking woman. She's a fetching woman. It was not a decision they made during the documentary that compelled them to do this.
No, time changed.
Time changed a lot. Because what happened was when Aiden and Richard saved their mother from the car accident, the other family in the car perished. And there was a 6-year-old boy in that car.
The philosopher guy?
It was Adam Lindquist, the philosopher.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yes. There's a newspaper article that flashes on screen, and young Adam Lindquist has died at age 6.
Oh,
so
okay.
Our on-screen philosopher is dead. So suddenly there's somebody new there. And that's the second thing that is like catnip for me in time travel stories, because I brought it up when we were talking about Quantum Leap. When Al was 100% guaranteed to die during a leap for Lisa, and suddenly he's replaced by Roddy McDowell. I'm like, fuck yeah. And that's what happened in this movie. And I was like, you got me. Hook, line, and sinker. I am in. That was fucking cool.
Okay. Yeah, for me, I don't know if that makes it more interesting. I mean, that's really, really cool. And it's cool that you caught that, because I didn't obviously catch that. But we were talking about like the globe changes in the background of one. When we're talking to the science fiction writer, it's just he has a different mug. You know, like his
that
coffee
was really
is
interesting. I want to talk about Kevin Ulrich, the
well, let me just make it
author.
Let me attach it to what we were just saying, though. I kind of like that it can have such a light ripples in this timeline that he is handed a different mug, right? And it becomes just as light a ripple for them to say, well, let's see, we could talk to 2 of these different people in this documentary. You want to go with the philosopher or the sociologist? In one timeline, they went, sociologist.
Right.
That's the way I took it. I did not realize that the philosopher had been killed in a car accident. So I don't know if I like one better than the other. I really kind of like the idea that they were just like, it's like they're gonna go talk to her this time.
I mean, like, there's merit there, because that's
fun.
Like the butterfly effect at work.
This is the butterfly effect to end all butterfly effects. Our car's gonna be flying by the time this is over.
It's these just small little changes that could happen, that could have drastic impacts down the line. And that's what a lot of this movie is about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But the author, out of all the characters, seems to change the least, right? You've got Yarborough, the historian at Harvard. His title changes throughout, from historian to time historian.
I wondered if somebody did. Yeah, I didn't.
Time-torian too.
Yeah, as I saw things changing, I was like, do I want to rewind back and see if some of their titles and where they work changed?
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
I was
the
like, I
titles
bet
changed.
it did, but I'm not going to go look.
I think Yarborough has, other than the difference between Lindquist and Byers when they just completely change who's getting the interview, Yarborough's got the easiest way to visually track the changes.
To discuss the history of science fiction becoming science fact, we talked with Professor Edward Yarborough of Harvard University. Professor Yarborough is a professor of American history and one of the world's foremost authorities on the history of time travel.
Because he's got this case next to him on a pedestal.
Yeah.
And there's a moon rock in there for a bit. And then there's some Kennedy paraphernalia in there. And then there's a big headline that says Nixon assassinated in there.
Yeah.
The changes to the timeline meant that Nixon got elected in 1960. That case becomes like the easiest visual stamp. And the movie comes back at the end after the timeline is restored, and you see the moon rocks back. And it's like, that's kind of your signal that, oh, everything is okay again.
Or at least back where we started.
We see Adam Lindquist again on that park bench. Everything's been restored.
Yeah,
that's another thing I really love. By the end of this whole hour, this whole thing that we've been observers to, recipients of information of, is kind of restored to its natural order in a way that it's a typical narrative structure, but it's presented in such an interesting way that I was like, wow, I've never seen it executed like this before.
Couldn't have ended any better than it did. I mean, that's exactly how you wrap this up in a good tight hour. This is essentially an hour and a half documentary with commercial breaks.
Yeah, there are, because it's Amazon Prime, there are commercial breaks.
Well, but that's not what I'm driving at. I mean,
there are literal commercial breaks, which actually, in this case, adds to the authenticity. And you know what's even better? I did not see a Subway ad this time.
Well, that's always helpful. But what I really meant was, it's an hour and 10.
Yeah.
And that's, 20 minutes within an hour and a half or something. The length of it is pretty much what you would expect one of these documentaries to be. The way that it ends, though, is, like you said, it's all kind of comes back full circle, and you can tell that everything is resting the way it's going to rest from this point forward, and all the upheaval that you've felt through the whole documentary is okay. That's over. Like,
yes.
now it's all theoretical at this point.
And the title of the show has changed even at that point to The Theory of Time Travel from the History of Time Travel.
And it's changed from the History Channel to the Syfy Channel.
But until such a time when man is able to leave the boundaries of time and space, the history of time travel will remain within the realm of science fiction. For Science Fiction Television, this has been The Theory of Time Travel.
To Science Fiction Television.
Science Fiction Television.
Like, that was so cool, like, to go out that way.
Yeah.
To me, the most interesting period of this whole story is that period where they're trying to get their dad to not lose himself in his work and spend more time with his family and be a dad and be a husband to Anne. So what they do, they have the great idea, well, why don't we just go back in time and give him the time machine he was going to develop anyway, and he'll have it, and then he can spend all his time with us instead of trying to design it for 40 years, right?
Right, yeah.
And that's where that infinite loop item comes in. Once they do that, nobody actually builds the time machine, right?
Except
in that version of history, nobody actually builds the time machine.
Right, but in that version of history, because it's kind of gets split up, because there are clearly other timelines where this happened differently.
The best part of that one is that the Soviets steal that time machine.
Right.
And then Edward Page has no idea how to recreate it because he never did it.
Right.
Right?
Then they believe him to be a fraud, and then they think maybe he's a spy.
Yeah. That's my favorite stretch of this story, is when things really go tits up.
Yeah.
And the Soviets successfully land Yuri Gagarin on the moon.
Yeah.
They just wait for American technology to reach a point, steal the technology with spies, and then travel back in time and invent it themselves. And that's the entire modus operandi of the Soviet Union for like 25 years.
Like the idea that American exceptionalism, of course, clearly only we could have come up with Sputnik. The movie seems to suggest that Sputnik was all based on American technology and research.
Sputnik was based from an entirely American design. The day that the blueprints were finalized was the same day the Soviets launched it into orbit.
Well, the movie also speculates that the first operational time machine was built out of an Atari 2600.
Fair. Yeah, fair. He only used that for the control, though.
But here's the other thing.
I know, it's on the backpack. I get it.
The Atari's on the backpack until it's not.
Then it's an NES.
And then later...
It's a Super NES.
Super Nintendo.
Yeah. Depending on what time frame it's actually built in, yeah.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
That's fun.
Yeah. It's a lot of cute, fun stuff. Very creative.
It's a cautionary tale, I would say. You know?
The one thing that continues to motivate the kids to further their father's research, I think in most timelines, if not all, it's actually the kids that end up building the machine.
All of them.
Yeah, all of them. Okay,
all
so
the time.
like
it's
the
like
father
the dad leaves these copious notes
and does all this research for decades, and then they're able to build out of it and actually finish the project. But one of the things about their motivation, however, is that it often deals with the fate of their mother. Once it's their father, but usually it's their mother dies, right? She dies of polio at first. Then she dies in the car accident. Then she takes her own life.
Yep.
And then she's killed in theoretically a KGB hit.
KGB, CIA, the Teamsters, they all...
There's no way to know for sure. But the point is the mother continues to die. And it led me to believe, like, is this movie also using the time travel element that time will correct itself to meet expectation? There are a lot of time travel stories that say, like, this has to happen.
Right. And it's one of those anchor events.
Right. Yeah. I wondered if they were going to go that way, but by the end, they lived happily ever after.
Yeah,
so.
I thought that too, when it just seemed like, well, we just can't get the mom out of this.
She's supposed to be gone.
To perish. That certainly made me feel like nothing was going to resolve well for any of these people.
Until it did.
If anything, I was surprised by the end that everybody showed the appropriate amount of restraint and just didn't build the time machine.
Right.
You know?
But what if it had worked, Brian?
We'll never know.
I guess we'll never know. That's what's neat. Like, by the end, because they used the time travel machine to correct everything, the people on the show, on the documentary, are like, well, I guess we'll never know if it worked.
What if Edward Page had invented time travel? How would that affect us? We experience time as we perceive it. But if time could be altered and was being altered, would we perceive that? That's the big question. Would we even notice?
Yeah.
But of course, we as the audience, again, we know more than they do. We saw it worked. It worked 100 times. It worked over and over again. And it just kept getting messed up. Because that's what time travel does. But this is really well put together. The acting is maybe a little...
Oh, sure.
But it kind of works, though, because they're just supposed to be people.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, too. Like, if we're talking about taking advantage of the limitations that you're faced with, I think if you had employed any of these on-screen personas as like dramatic actors in a feature film, like it's not going to quite cut it. But they all come across as pretty capable or a little bit self-involved or a little awkward on camera, you know, and it works.
Yeah, and it's fine because they're all professors that are getting interviewed on camera for probably the first or third time, you know?
At the outset, I will admit that the only reason I was kind of thinking this particular way was because of Lola and the sort of idea that art will endure, regardless of anything. The fact that the writer is the least altered throughout all of these changes in society, right?
Science fiction author, yeah.
To discuss the genre of time travel, its place within science fiction, and how it ultimately became a reality, we talked with noted author and screenwriter Kevin Ulrich. Ulrich is the creator of the popular time travel series Nick of Time. We meet up with him at a book signing in Los Angeles, California.
The science fiction writer is the one who seems to change the least as history is altered. I kept thinking, I was like, is this a commentary on the persistence of art or this sort of universality? Like, art will find a way to push through regardless of what happens in the world. I don't know. And I may be giving this guy way too much credit. And I was only thinking about it because Lola, it's pretty explicit, I think. But why is that guy in a different outfit now? Why is that man's globe different, but you're still at this fucking cafe eating a goddamn baguette?
Yeah, and you basically got your coffee in a different mug each time.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't know. I don't know if that was intentional for some purpose or not really. I think it's interesting that he probably knew the most about the whole thing. And I think about this in actual documentaries as well. When these people come on, these experts come on, and they say, oh, well, Edward was really feeling this, and this was what he was really thinking, and he was this kind of person, and this is the relationship he had with his wife.
Richard and his father had a unusual relationship since Anne's death. Richard admired Edward as a scientist and respected him as a father, but they were never truly close. Not as close as Richard wanted them to be.
Deep down, I think becoming a physicist was a way that Richard thought that he could really connect with his father.
Yeah.
This is what I think in real life when I'm watching one of these real things. I'm like, dude, you don't know. Like, you don't know this dude's home life.
Right.
You know, if you even met this guy, you met him in some professional setting or some shit, right? You don't know what this guy's home life is like.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody in my life that I'd be qualified to make that sort of statement about.
Right?
Myself included.
You don't know what your own home life is like.
Yeah.
I don't
I'm
know
not
how
really
to
sure
speak
what to
on
make
this.
of any of this shit. Yeah, no, but that's again, there's something very authentic there.
Yeah, that's how these things are. But it just kind of goes to show you, like, I took it the same way here as I do when I'm watching those actual things. I'm like, man, science fiction author guy, you must love time travel, and you probably know everything there is to know about Edward Page. But don't presume to know what his relationship was with his wife. Man.
You know what's really funny is we spent about 15 minutes going back and forth about Ricky Kennedy's motivations for making this movie.
Yeah, and we're both so
and we're just two
steadfast.
schmucks sitting here trying to figure it out. We don't fucking know this guy.
Yeah.
I really wonder, though. I really hope he's doing great. I don't know what he works on anymore, but like...
I think we can definitely speculate on where this came from. I love to reconstruct where I think it might have come from, but I would not presume to know what his relationship is with his kid. I don't know. I assume he loves his child.
I
don't even know if he has kids.
Yeah, maybe not.
But that's the kind of thing. I'm always like, you don't know these things about this person.
Speaking of kids, another subtle little thing here, and this is kind of the bookend of, I think, the entire time travel story that's happening through the cracks as all of these people talk. The photograph of Anne that is in Edward's journal early on in this.
Okay, the first one?
Yeah, and on the back of it, it says, "In time, I will save you," right?
Right.
And it's kind of like his whole motivation is to build this time machine to save his wife.
Right.
And it's something that Richard picks up, and then all of this stuff ensues, and then ultimately Richard and Aidan take the time machine back to their dad, present him with that completed time machine in 45, and when they are in the house at the end, 20 years after their parents were killed there, and they find that same journal, that picture's in there, but on the back it says, "In time, you will save us."
Right.
And I was like, that's great. Like, that's a really nice little piece of symmetry. Like, this all started here, but it's up to you guys to correct this, and I know you can. And I know you can because you already brought me the time machine.
Right, yeah.
You know?
I think it's a through thread that kind of indicates that some things are going to continue to happen, or some variations of those same things are going to happen. Like the father is in multiple timelines going to decide to try and hide his work under a floorboard. and that notebook will have a photo in it. That's pretty typical of time travel tropes, and like you can always expect that this character is going to act this way, or that this person's going to do this type of thing.
Yeah. But I think here it's more like the first note, it feels more written out of desperation. Whereas the second version of it, where it's more explicitly written to his sons.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the first one, he wrote that note to himself about his wife. And that kind of is this thing that eventually just devours him, right? Trying to develop this time machine, achieve this thing he can't hope to achieve. But like, the way it's presented at the end is in an entirely different context. You're going to save us all and it will be okay.
In kind of piecing this all together, maybe I appreciate this on another level, because it seems like the documentary opens like we talked about with the 3 different versions of time travel there can be. Multiple timelines, predestined loops, and singular timelines.
The whatever happened.
Right.
Kind of.
And this seems to indicate that all of those things can be true.
Yes.
You know, like it presents all 3 of them, right? You mentioned that the time travel machine is brought back to the eventual creator of the time machine, who then brings it to the future. And it just continues in that loop. But also, just the notion that all these people have their changing photographs in the background, and their different coffee mugs, and their different playgrounds in the background. Those are all different timelines.
It's not fixed.
Yeah,
because if it was all fixed, the moon rock never would have gone anywhere.
Right.
You know? Yeah. But I think that's kind of neat, specifically because it does explain everything pretty succinctly early on. Like, it puts everything out there. It's like, okay, guys, these are the 3 things we're going to do in the next hour.
Yeah.
Okay? So just pay attention for 2 minutes of your time. If I could get just 2 minutes of your time to explain how these things work.
You know those documentaries they used to have, like Monster Quest, or The Hunt for Bigfoot or whatever? And every time they went to commercial, they'd tease some great evidence that they were going to have of this monster by the end of the show.
Thousands have reported seeing this beast.
You just gotta see it to believe it.
The evidence has been elusive until now.
It's going to be something that no one's ever seen before.
You'd see like 2 guys rushing up to this like muddy pit, and they'd be like, oh no, that's it, I seen it.
But
and then they'll cut to a shot of like leaves rustling really quick, like somebody just pushed through a tree.
Right, but the promise was always, come back, wait till the end of the show, because we've got absolute irrefutable evidence that the Loch Ness Monster exists, you know? And at some point, you've watched enough of these things to realize, and it shouldn't take long, folks, probably shorter time than me.
Like, damn it, they got me again.
Yeah, I'm so stupid. But at some point, you realize if they had irrefutable evidence that the Loch Ness Monster or Bigfoot existed, they lead with that shit. That's the first thing you see.
There would have been like
they're not saving that for the last 15 minutes of the show.
There would have been a prime time address.
Yeah, somebody else would have already picked this shit up.
You would have interrupted the 8:00 hour on ABC, and the president would have come out and said, "My fellow Americans, we now have irrefutable proof of the Bigfoot." Something else I really, really liked, and I think we touched on this a little bit with Lola too, in terms of like the different types of film stock that was used throughout Lola.
Mm-hmm.
There's like an archival interview with a family friend. Of the pages
from the 80s, like
Dorothy Lister,
a taped interview from the 1980s.
Even though Anne was a lovely person and a wonderful mother, she had a dark side that was tormenting her. After narrowly surviving a car wreck in *53, Anne became a different person.
It's got the look and quality of a late 80s taped interview.
Yeah,
like I was like, oh, that's so cool. That's so cool that they were able to do that and kind of replicate it. It just adds to the authenticity of the whole thing.
Yeah, right.
And I think that's to me like what really wins me over, is that there's an earnestness in this and there's an authenticity to it that I don't know if I would say this is like essential time travel viewing, but it's definitely something I would recommend to people who don't necessarily like time travel stuff. Because it's such a different format. I think it's a little more digestible. It's not as heady.
But if you're already...
Because it is kind of explaining everything to you. I'm not saying you don't have to think critically about it, because you obviously do throughout. But
I don't know,
I just
man.
think this is an interesting presentation.
Yes, that 100%. But I feel like this is more viewing for people that are into time travel and understand it and want to see it differently now. I've seen Back to the Future.
That's fair, too.
I've seen Terminator 2.
Too.
I want to see something different. Because if you show this to somebody that kind of doesn't get time travel right now, they're not going to get the fact that the mug has changed, or that the girl is different, or that the guy died. You know, like, they're just not going to pick it all up.
If you've seen Back to the Future lays it out pretty explicitly, like all those sorts of stuff,
you
right?
You yourself have said that Back to the Future is like the 101 class, and some people don't get it. Like, if you give them...
some people... I'm not saying I would recommend this to anyone.
Yeah, but you said, like, people that maybe don't like time travel or don't get into it too much.
I don't mean... All right, so I would differentiate from people who don't get into time travel very much and people who can't get into time travel very much. There are people who are like, yeah, I get it, but it's not for me. And then there are people like, I don't understand a single thing that you just showed me. You know?
Right, like that dude that didn't get Somewhere in Time.
Right.
That one reviewer that's like, I don't get it. He lived back then, too?
Yeah, wow.
Like, yeah, all right, buddy.
That is kind of illuminating, you know.
But
that guy is exactly who I was talking about at the beginning, who would see this and be like, damn, I never heard about any of this stuff happening, you know?
Yeah.
Who'd go to work the next day and be like, guys, you heard about that time travel project?
I think...
I don't know why he talks like that. I mean, I do know why he talks like that, and I'm
Cletus
sorry.
the slack-jawed yokel.
Some folk will never eat a skunk, but then again, some folk will, like Cletus the slack-jawed yokel.
Hey, what's going on this side?
I could call my ma while I'm up here.
Hey, Ma! Get off the dang roof!
Okay. We're devolving here.
Quickly.
When you're talking about the 1980s taped interview of the friend, I like that part quite a bit too. But the still photography is wonderful.
Yeah.
They've chosen actors that easily age in these photos and are recognizable as those people, but somehow older. The only one that's a little funky is when they make Edward at his very youngest, but he's got that pipe.
Yeah, right.
that looks a little silly. You know, like, that guy's not smoking a pipe.
I was in style for 10-year-olds to smoke at that point.
But, I mean, like, honestly, here he is graduating college. Here he is getting married. Here he is working in his mid-30s or whatever. And they're in still photos because that's what the documentary has to present you with. And whomever is taking those photos or choosing those people to play each other over the course of from 1945 to 1990, you know, you see Edward Page in all of these different stages in his life, and he's recognizable as that person regardless. You know, and it's not like, oh, well, he looks the same in every picture. It's more like, no, here he is at 50, and here he was at 25. And that, to me, I thought was really, really well done. Kudos to whoever the still photographer was in this photo.
Yeah, the still photographs, and again, they look very time appropriate. You know,
Sure.
they don't look like
they
photographs
have to,
that were taken on today's camera.
Right, and if they do, they go through the filter of
Like a
being
filter,
on camera, you know, like it's on footage and whatever.
The same thing, I think, is true of the video footage that is used sparingly, like as it should be. It's not like people walked around filming every aspect of their life back in the 1940s, but you do get moments where you see them in an actual, like,
you see
film,
the mom running around with a
strip,
kid and
you know?
stuff. And then when you don't, and there are reenactments, they hide the actors' heads because that's what they do.
the backgrounds are fuzzy. Like they've got like that focus on something in the foreground to keep the action in the background a little fuzzy.
And you don't see who the actual actor is because it's clearly a reenactment. You would recognize Abraham Lincoln if it was really Abraham Lincoln. So here's they have to hide it.
That's what I'm saying. It looks like, again, if you were just flipping channels in the middle of the night and you came across this and you didn't know what it was, you'd probably get a couple minutes in before you realized, wait, this isn't real.
Yeah, right.
You know?
Yeah.
Because it looks just like everything else. It looks and acts and functions the same way anything else you'd see on TV is.
So, canonically speaking, headcanon, Edward Page lives in the same possible timeline as Lola, am I right?
Yeah, must.
Yeah, clearly.
Obviously.
Clearly, while the sisters were building Lola, Project Indiana was happening over in the States.
The funny thing is, like, thinking about that, how in the world would any of this have worked if there was more than one team developing a time machine at a time, you know?
Well, that was the idea that there were, right? The Nazis were working on it.
Right, but I mean, like, if two different factions had functional time machines in different parts of the world,
yeah,
this sort of story can only resolve itself well if there's only one time machine.
True.
But I think that, and this was completely unintentional, like, obviously, when I scheduled these, I didn't really do this on purpose, and I threw this one on the
you
calendar,
hadn't seen
like,
either
a week
of them.
ago, no. But Lola and the history of time travel just pair so well together.
Yeah, they go pretty well together, for sure.
Hey, you got your chocolate and my peanut butter.
Peanut butter on my chocolate.
What?
I touched on it a little bit, but just again, I like that this is paired with notable projects like the atom bomb, Project Manhattan and the space race. It doesn't take away from those two events. It just is additive, as in this is just another one of these same things where it was a competition between warring or Cold War nations. These were historical competitions in science, and one of them just happened to be time travel. I think that's a fun take, and one of the things I really enjoyed about it. One thing I did learn over the course of this documentary, were you aware that Albert Einstein was a real person? All this time I thought he was a theoretical physicist.
Oh, boo.
No, you liked that. Don't say you didn't like that.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. Actually, I'll tell you this real quick. One of the trivia questions I asked at my shows this week.
I'm going to edit out your boo, by the way.
Oh, I know you are. Just turn it into a cheer. Yay!
I'm going to cut right to the laugh.
The category was famous dogs.
What?
The question, in 1957, a stray dog named Laika became the first living creature to do what?
The first living creature?
To do what?
A dog?
Yeah.
Oh, is it the dog that went to space?
Yes. Orbit the Earth.
Okay.
And Sputnik 2. But when I read the question again before I told them the answer, I said, in 1957, a stray dog named Laika became the first living creature to do what? The answer is your mom.
You said that?
Yeah. If I can find a good, place to make your mom a viable answer, I'll do it. I didn't even intend to do it, but then when I read the question again, I was like, a stray dog named Laika became the first living creature to do your mom? That's pretty good.
Is that the name of the dog in Guardians?
No, Cosmo is the dog.
Cosmo, right? Yeah.
Laika is the animation studio that made Coraline.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the actual dog.
The only thing I thought was interesting that we haven't really talked about was after traveling through time, and it happens to Richard and it happens to Aiden, there's a 3-day coma that they slip into.
Oh, yeah.
After coming back.
Yeah.
And the movie ends with the sort of cryptic revelation that a failed experiment in 1996 caused Richard to slip into a coma, and he remained in that coma.
Yeah.
Well, 1996 was the last time they activated the time machine.
Right.
The final Hail Mary.
Yeah,
to set the timeline straight. And I was wondering if, did they just catch up to that point? And at the point where he would have activated that time machine, did he slip into a coma and just stay there? I don't know.
Why would he just stay there for that?
Yeah, I don't know why he would just stay there unless...
Yeah, that's curious. But there's also some hint that we might be missing some pieces of it, because it seems like in one of the versions, Aiden... Is it Aiden? No.
Yeah.
Richard comes back on the exact day that Aiden's going to wake up from his coma because he knows it's going to happen.
Yes. He leaves Aiden in the hospital for 3 days.
And shows up on the third day because he knows, okay, you come out of the coma in the third day. But for that to be the case, there have to be time travel trips that they don't show us. Because when
For him to know that that's typical.
that's going to happen, there have to be time travel efforts or trips that they don't show us.
Oh, I'm sure there are, but it's just not really relevant to what happens with the family. Right, because even we see him test it, and it's kind of cool. I think
the testing
the video
part was
footage
fun.
of him testing it.
The first time Richard uses the device, he decides to make only a very small jump. He turns the knob and is sent 1 minute into the future. However, Richard reappears to us only a second later. This is Richard from the future. Now, this future Richard waits exactly 1 minute for the arrival of past Richard. This future Richard then tells past Richard to travel back in time 1 minute. Past Richard travels back in time to become future Richard.
Wrap your head around that.
There's that one thing where it's like he said he spent like a day in a broom closet.
Yeah, waiting for time
he
to
went
catch
back
up with itself.
To the period before he ever activated the time machine. He realized, oh, well, I can't do that.
If he saw himself and told himself, okay, go back a minute, like, I don't know how that solves anything.
Well, the movie does point out, because the Soviets rightly figure out that they can't go back and alter anything before the time machine was created, right?
Right.
So what he does, if I'm remembering this correctly, is he travels a minute into the future and sees himself and tells him to go back, but it's the version of himself that already did this that's telling him to go back, right? So again, it's like already in his past.
The way I remember it is he jumps a minute into the future, and then he sort of sits there and waits for himself to show up, to come forward a minute in the future, and then tells himself to go back. But I don't see how that solves anything. But the science fiction author sure does.
Wrap your head around that.
Yeah, like the version of him in the future is the one that already went back and came forward again.
Yeah,
right.
That part started to get a little confusing for me.
It's like a zigzag.
That's the one bit of time travel that they saw, that they knew existed.
If you're gonna build a time machine into a car, why not do it with some style?
So the method of time travel, it's a backpack.
Occasionally.
Of an Atari system or a video gaming system that has a little satellite dish on it, and you blink in and out. Ultimately, it looks like kind of a mixture between the time travel method in Predestination and Looper.
Yeah, I was going to say Predestination and Looper were what I was thinking, because you kind of pop in and out the same way.
Yeah.
But there is that sort of like environmental effect that you saw in Predestination, where like the displacement of air in the room kind of causes papers to flutter or things like that.
Yeah, I wish they had pushed that a little bit more. I like the way that they did it with Predestination, because that vacuum that's created by your quick disappearance like shatters glass.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
very cool.
That was really, really cool. So like a little flutter of paper. I mean, that's fun. I like that there's some effect on the outside world, you know?
Yeah, I also think it's kind of cool seeing it, depending on the device being used to record what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
The first time Richard travels back, he's using a VHS camera.
Right. Yeah, he
and
set up one.
When he's traveling, the tape distorts.
Yeah, sure.
Right? Like, the image we see on screen distorts and gets blurry.
Yeah, it kind of blurs and... Sure.
Whereas when we see the same sort of test footage from the 40s, it's like a film strip, filmed presumably with a camera that had film running through it, and you don't get that same effect with it. Right?
Right, yeah.
More like the magnetic tape that's being used in the VHS tape is disrupted
by
what's happening there, which I thought was like
fun.
Was
that's
a cool touch.
Yeah, it is kind of neat. So, what is the element of the Atari 2600 that is also present in the NES and the Super Nintendo that would apply to the time travel machine? Clearly, there is a connective tissue.
Right. We just had to wait for the Atari to get built before we could build a time machine.
The Atari 2600, they just described it as a controlling system. Like, he just really wanted just the dial. There wasn't anything in the Atari system that lent itself to time travel except they have a little dial to go forward or backward.
Inspired by H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, Richard wanted something round that could be turned either direction to control the device. His ultimate choice was quite appropriate for the 1980s.
Richard Page built a time machine out of an Atari.
Using the control knob of an Atari gaming system, Richard could move himself through time. Turning the controller to the right sends you into the future. Turning the knob to the left sends you into the past.
But then you move on to the Super Nintendo, which never had anything but a pad.
I think it's just,
it's just a fun
Obviously, there's not a dial, but I think the only reason they do that periodically is because the time machine keeps getting invented later and later.
Right. No, I mean, I know
and so
why
it's like
they do
it's just
it.
a quick passage of time thing. But yeah, I think the explanation that's given, where it's like you turn to the left and you go to the past, and you turn to the right and you go to the future, is very direct and explicit. Obviously, they don't show the controllers beyond that point, beyond that initial test.
Right.
So how are you using a D-pad on a Nintendo controller to achieve the same effect? If you hit A while using it, will you jump to an alternate timeline?
What about a secret code like up, up, down, down,
up,
left,
down,
right,
down,
left,
left,
right?
right. Jesus Christ. Oh my God, yeah.
You end up in a parallel universe.
What happens when you enter the Konami code on this?
Right.
First used in 1986, the code has appeared in over 100 video games. It's been referenced on TV shows and has been an Easter egg in a few unexpected places. In short, the Konami code has become more than just a cheat code. It has become a part of the pop culture lexicon. So what's the story behind this famous code? Let's take a look.
Yeah, I don't know. As far as the time machine, I feel like you're going to score this higher than me.
I don't know. I
think it's fine.
I think it's cool. It's cool in the same. You made a time machine out of a DeLorean. You made a time machine out of an Atari. Hey, that's cool.
DeLorean
it's got that sort
is
of
way cooler than an Atari.
Yeah.
What?
But I don't think it's cooler. I think, look, if I'm ranking them, I think it's like Atari, NES, DeLorean, Super Nintendo.
The fucking car, dude.
Look, I think a Super Nintendo is objectively cooler than a DeLorean.
Okay. I'm not a video game guy.
One of them could play Super Metroid, for instance.
No.
Anyways.
One of them looks like a flying saucer when it crashes in a barn.
Yeah, but it ended up being driven by Troy McClure. And not during his popular phase.
Wait, what?
You remember Troy McClure when he was in the Planet of the Apes musical? He was driving a DeLorean.
Oh.
Yeah, like
I don't think I noticed that.
It was one of the signs that he was at the end of his, like,
the end of his
back in the
career
80s, he
doing
was
bad
cool
stuff.
when he bought a DeLorean, and now he's still driving that same fucking DeLorean. It's like
okay.
1997, right?
Yeah. All right.
And it was not in good shape. So, okay, well, this is better than self-hypnosis, right? We can start there.
Sure, okay.
Okay, all right, so that immediately puts it somewhere among the top 4 or top 5 at least.
Well, that's because we've only got, 6?
No, we've got 7 right now.
Okay.
So
this is below the time regressor.
It's below the time regressor for you.
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it puts you in a coma.
Probably right.
I mean, I never saw anybody... Chase came back from the Viking Age just fine.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I personally think if I had to choose between which appliance I'd want in my house, probably Super Nintendo. But That's okay.
He's not playing games on it, Brian. You have to
Isn't
have
he, though?
You have to
Isn't
have
he
a
kind
second.
of?
No, you have to have a second Nintendo if you want to play Super Metroid.
Oh.
I don't know. Like, it's fun. It's cool for the purposes of this documentary.
I think it's
but
cool.
if
I like the way it functions. Again, I like how simple and rudimentary it is. I like the dial on it. I'm saying all this while also agreeing with you that it goes below the time regressor.
Yeah, there's definitely cool stuff about this. Like, I think the fact that it's a little different depending on when it's built is really cool. I like the fact that they tried to make it smaller but couldn't, so they had to wear it on their back. That was kind of fun. And again, I like the displacement of the environment as you blink in and out. I remember when we started doing this as a time travel podcast, we gave Looper a really high rating just because it was fun that they didn't bother with stuff.
To make it this huge overblown effect.
Yeah,
It
they
was
just
like
cut the
pop,
camera
there it
off.
is.
Yeah, you just cut the camera off. He walks away, turn the camera back on. And we gave it credit for that.
Yeah.
And this is like that with a little touch of flair, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so you got to give it some credit for that. I think where I would draw it back is that they don't show it too much because it never really existed. So when you see it,
they don't show
it's
too
just
much
kinda...
because the footage for it doesn't exist.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't overdo it because it wouldn't make sense for a lot of footage of this to exist, especially once we get into the wartime, the Cold War era, and any technological advancements we're trying to make. We wouldn't have access to that kind of footage, right?
So is it presently that the time regressor is right next to self-hypnosis? And we can just slide this in between?
Yes, yeah. So this is the new number 5.
Okay.
Going between time regressor and self-hypnosis.
And we agree that Lola is number 1.
Not according to our recording, we don't.
I have changed my mind on that. I'm going to go to the mats. I mentioned this to Brian just in our chat outside of, while I was editing our last Lola episode. I like Lola better than the Accelerator.
That's insane.
I thought maybe I wouldn't by the time I was done, but it's just better, man. I guess we can't change it now, but in my mind, Lola is number 1 this season. That thing is way cooler than a bunch of steam.
Well, I will tell you what, I mean...
To say nothing of the fact that the Accelerator has never worked properly.
That's true.
You always get lost in time. Like, what's the
Accelerator?
It doesn't even work.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Well, if it's any consolation, I'm sure Lola will be number 1 on next year's list for at least a week.
For at least a week.
You know, it'll be that week where Lola's number 1 and the time regressor is number 2 and the city is number 3, and then we'll see what happens.
They're all going to make it, huh?
No, I'm just
going to
kidding.
make it the next step.
No. Give these guys their moment in the sun, and then they put them out to pasture. That's what we do here.
All right. So what's coming up next week?
Next episode, going back to the listener requests here with Tim Travers and the Time Traveler's Paradox.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a feeling there are no Nazis in this one. So I just want to... Yeah, I think we're done with Nazis for a little while, at least. But that'll be the next one.
A staple of time travel movies. Yeah. Yeah, and by this time, we've got, probably 2, maybe 3 episodes of Spoiled Tomatoes out. So if you're out there, write in. Let us know what you're thinking of those. Are you playing along? Are you having fun with that? If you're not, too bad, because they're still going. We'll be doing it again next week.
Yeah, let us know. It would be good to get some feedback about Spoiled Tomatoes. Though.
Yeah, I want to see what you think of that. What can we change? What would be better? We'll see.
And you can do all of that by dropping us a line at ohboyqlpod@gmail.com, where I would prefer you not let us know what we can be doing better is on your preferred podcast apps, guys, where I hope you are downloading the shows, but you can also leave us reviews and ratings, and that is not the place to tell us what you think of any of this, other than all the stuff you love.
That's right. 5 stars.
5 stars only. 5 stars only. Leave us comments, and of course, follow us on social media. We're OhBoyPod on Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and Letterboxd.
Letterboxd, did you write your haiku for Somewhere in Time?
Thought I did. Oh, God, did I not?
Or for Lola?
Oh, I haven't done Lola yet, for sure, because we haven't.
You got to get cracking, man.
Well, I mean, when you're listening to this, yes, I've written the one for Lola. But as we're recording this, I have not. so don't worry, guys. Yeah, time travel. How about that? Yeah. Oh, yeah, I wrote my haiku. I wrote the haiku for Somewhere in Time.
Good.
Just think hard enough. Doesn't quite stick the landing. Reeves' eyes are dreamy.
You got to save that stuff so that people will go to the Letterboxd.
Oh, this is the old one, though. I mean, you got to go there to check out Lola.
They should have been there already.
Yeah, you really should have. But yeah, join us on Letterboxd, guys. And anywhere else you'd prefer to follow us to. Not in our real lives, though, that's for sure.
You don't know us at home. You don't know our lives.
It's not hard to figure out.
You don't know what our family life is like. We don't air that stuff on the regular.
You got to listen to the bonus episodes to get a taste of that. Until next time, I'm Brian.
And I'm Nate.
And we'll see you in the future.
Among the best evidence available, the controversial Freeman footage recorded in the Blue Mountains, Washington in 1994.
Oh, there he goes.
The crippled foot tracks discovered in 1969 and the mid-tarsal break, a unique characteristic of many tracks found in recent years. The science team will also map the Bigfoot sightings of the last 40 years. And they'll look at the most famous evidence of all, the 1967 recordings of what is known simply as the Patterson-Gimlin film. The team will re-examine it with the latest technology in an attempt to try to determine its authenticity.